Welcome to Lumber Capital Log Yard, where tradition meets innovation. The Breon family has built a powerhouse sawmill operation, and now they're taking it even further with the brand new L200 Pro aluminum chamber from Nyle Dry Kilns. This high-efficiency kiln holds up to 3,500 board feet of up to 16-foot long lumber, delivering faster drying and greater control over quality. We sent our drying specialist, Ian Griffin, to provide hands-on training and help educate the Breon family on how to get the most out of their new kiln.
All right, so we'll start with the sticks because I think they're one of the most important parts. The whole package is based on that. But first things first, we've got, and this is kind of easy on the eyes, we've got a little bit of wobble here. And we'll talk about why that's important in a second, but this side's a little bit crooked, this one's a little crooked, and this one's a little crooked. So why do crooked sticks matter? Basically, your entire wood is supported by each individual stick. You want a nice clean chimney. Anytime you have space, it's an opportunity for the wood to move around and everything. So your sticks are a little crooked, you don't really have enough sticks. If you're dealing with 4/4 pine like you got right here, it's gonna move a lot and shrink and swell as it dries a whole bunch. So the more support you have, the better. If you have thicker lumber, you could get away with 3 or 4 sticks on an 8 to 10 foot pack, but on this 4/4, I'd love to see a stick every foot to a foot and a half.
So if we do 5?
5 on an 8 would be good. You'd also want them as close to the end as possible.
Yeah.
Because again, that same kind of thing, when the lumber is not supported, it has that opportunity to move around. So in a perfect world, you would have that locked right in, fully supported each way, and then some weight on top to kind of keep it from shrinking. Now, if you can see, this board right here is kind of what I'm talking about. You got a little tiny baby gap right here, and that wood is because it's cupping right there. So if you had more weight on here, it might be able to keep that flat. It's just a possibility. The other thing too, you've got some 10-footers mixed in here. What I like to see if you're dealing with multiple lengths in a single pack, and this isn't always practical, but you'd want to have the longer ones on the bottom because it makes baffling it a little easier. And if you want, you can add some weight on those longer ones down here. Whereas if you put weight on this, it might actually force the whole thing down because it's all open, there's no sticker support. So those are kind of the biggest things that I see with the eye right there. The other thing that can make things a little easier is if you shift all the wood to one side, you only have to baffle on the far end like there. So if you can get that close to the wall and you can cut off the airflow, then you only have to hang something up on the one end. But even with all these awful, terrible mistakes, the lumber actually looks pretty good. I'd say for your guys' first charge, I've seen an awful lot worse, so congratulations.
Thank you.
We are loading the L200 Pro chamber, and Ian is kind of going to show Jade the proper way to get this started on the right foot. So what do they need to do, Ian?
So first things first, you're going to want to make sure you're kind of butted over to this wall as much as possible. You don't want to get in the way of your hanger or anything like that. But if you can get that tight, you're going to help prevent airflow from going over here and help force it through the lumber. And then you only need to worry about baffling over on that side where it's going to cycle through. If you
So
don't.
you would touch this to that center?
I would personally. I would
You would
this
go
post right here.
right
I
to
would
it.
put it right to it, just like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. So it's all the way
And
up.
then this one though, you don't want to worry about hitting the actual side
Right,
because this
yeah.
can punch through. So you just line that up and you're
Okay.
good.
Nice.
And then we could potentially, depending on how thick your packs are, we could scooch this a little bit closer to the dehumidifier.
Okay.
Because of your pallet, you could probably put wood just about right up to it, and that would leave enough of a gap that air could still get funneled into it.
That's why
Okay.
we put that in there to protect that thing some.
That's not
So-
a bad idea.
Ian, that's a good question. So how close can they get their lumber to the unit?
The minimum, I would say, would be about 6 inches from this screen. A little more wouldn't hurt. 8 inches, if you're getting to 10 or 12, that's kind of more than you need.
Okay.
But you do need some room because if you butt it right tight, all the moisture coming out of the wood over here is going to have a hard time funneling
Getting
into
in.
the compressor.
Okay.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So 6 inches, guys.
Yep.
Okay, we did this system so that it would be 5 wide. And the thought with that was, with that forklift, without forklift extensions, I could pick up the pack
You never have to worry about hitting this.
and nor hitting it. So that was my
Yep.
thought.
No, that's
It
perfect.
doesn't mean that it's the best optimization for the running of the kiln.
Yep.
It was the best optimizing for the equipment that we have
for your
available to us.
process. The other thing that you might want to take into account is how far the stack goes towards your door,
Okay,
because you do need to have room for the air to come down. So the general rule of thumb
okay.
is about a quarter of the height of your stack. So if you're a 4-foot pack, you'd ideally want close to a foot.
Okay.
You may not be able to, if you cram this thing right full to 7 feet, you may have to narrow your pack a little bit to allow that.
Okay,
'Cause
I see.
the way the airflow works, it pressurizes off the floor, and then the back pressure is what
Is
forces
what
the
forces
music.
it. Okay.
So if you have a narrow little strip, you're not going to get good air.
Should we put 3 more down to see where we are then,
Yeah.
coming out?
I think that's the way to do
Okay.
it.
So Ian, I noticed that they have different types of sticks. They've got some sticks that have already been kiln dried, and then you're getting some brand new green sticks off here. Why are you keeping them separate?
So basically, anything, especially something like pine, that's sensitive to staining, and you'll get it in maple and stuff as well. If you put a wet stick on that lumber, it's going to cause a whole bunch of stain and discoloration.
These good, there's a bunch of them standing inside.
So these kiln-dried sticks should hopefully prevent that. If you have something like red oak that is not going to stain or water stain easily, then you can get away with using more green sticks on there, and you're likely to not have an issue. But if it's something like pine or maple, something you want to try to keep white, you definitely want your sticks to be dry. And if you keep them outside, you're going to want them under cover if it rains and stuff like that. So
Okay,
all
perfect.
that can help contribute to less stain and less other issues in your lumber.
Is that enough stickers on that?
I would like to have more, personally, but this is one more than we had.
Do you want to do more? It doesn't matter.
You got plenty of sticks?
Now's
think
the
we
time
do.
to do
All right.
it.
Yeah.
You got any more for the
So what he's going to do, guys, is he's probably going to put them about every 18 inches. The more support you have into that board when you get started,
I'm sorry.
the better. No, go ahead, Ken.
Well, we don't have more dunnage. Are we going to be okay on that?
Yeah, that'll be okay.
Okay.
I think, again, right there. So more dunnage wouldn't hurt. It would definitely be nice to have,
Okay.
but this will still help distribute the weight a lot more, and you're still going to have a much more stable pack with all these extra sticks.
And are you satisfied with the distance from the bay doors to the drying unit? We're probably going to be about 6 feet high.
I'd scooch it back a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know if we can.
Yeah, we might.
If we both push, we might be able to.
Okay, we're just pushing.
Yep.
So what they're doing, guys, is giving themselves more space for this front
This side
plenum.
needs to go here more.
So he's looking for at least a foot, I think.
Set about 6 feet high, so we want about 1.5 feet. If that's gonna butt right there, this looks like about 18 inches to me. So we should be pretty close.
All right, perfect. So when they're stacking these sticks, guys, they're trying to get them directly on top of each other so that it evens out the airflow. Now, and if somebody comes along and they just sort of kick one of these that way, so what happens if you left that like that, Ian?
So basically, because of the way the airflow works, on this side, you're creating a funnel shape. The airflow is going to speed up as it kind of comes through this funnel, and you're going to get greater air velocity going through this section. Over here, you've got a narrow entrance, and then it gets wider, so your air is actually going to slow down. So you will get a slightly different drying rate from here to here, just because of this crooked stick.
Just one crooked stick.
So the
don't
straighter
think,
the better.
Yeah, don't think that this is minuscule. I mean, everything that you do when you're setting this up is important. It all makes a difference.
Alrighty, so when you're mounting your temperature sensors in any kiln, whether it's an L200 or any other type, you always want to make sure you're controlling the entering side of the airflow. And the reason for that is as the air gets full of moisture from the lumber, from the wood water coming off the lumber, it'll get cooler. So if you control off the exiting side, you're going to be trying to heat up the exiting side to a certain temperature, and that means your entering side is going to be getting significantly hotter. So over here dangling we've got our E+E sensor, and this is going to get moved up to above the baffle here, and it's going to get mounted in the ceiling, so it'll come off the fans, it'll be reading right there, and we'll be measuring that air as it comes into the lumber.
On this side.
Yep.
And this is the positive pressure side,
That's
right?
correct. The side the fans are blowing into. So then over here, we've got our RTD sensors, and in this kiln, because they're running off the E+E, these are just kind of a backup. If they wanted to use these, they'd want to move their dry bulb over to the front of the entering side as well. Their wet bulb could stay back here, or they could move it onto the side and the front if they wanted to. But with the wet bulb, it's not as critical because the humidity in the kiln should stay relatively constant. For this particular one, you can see we've probably got about a 3.5 inch gap from the top of the jug to that one. That's a lot more than I would like to see, because if it gets really dry in here, this wick's gonna dry out. And if you have a wet bulb that dries out, it starts reading like a dry bulb. So if you have a high wet bulb reading, your compressor will run. So in this situation, you could easily have the compressor turn on because it thinks the wet bulb is really high and starts running flat out, drying out the environment more and making this problem worse and worse and worse. So what I would probably do is move this down so it's maybe about an inch or so off the top of the jug, so that it can, just enough room to get the cap off, and that it'll have a much higher odds of the water wicking up and maintaining a proper proper wet bulb.
All right, guys, you heard it. So that is too far away. He would recommend taking that down to about an inch. All right, guys, and this will pertain to you even if you're not using our L200 Pro chamber, but when you're setting up your fans, if you had a 20-foot container or a 20-foot wide building, you'd basically have 4 fans in there. If you ended up taking this thing out to a 40-foot container, you'd have a total of 8 fans. In all this heat, they have got the kiln loaded up. You can see that they slid everything that way. And what that's gonna do is allow Emerald to just baffle off one side instead of trying to baffle off both. And so what she's doing now is lowering those baffles. So it's just on a little cable and it comes right down to the top of your lumber. So this thing is height adjustable. If you've got your pack a little higher, it'll just sit down right on it. And so that gives you a perfect baffle. You don't have to mess with tarps and cloths, plywood, or things like that. You've got a nice metal structure and a metal cable system. Just makes it easy. What do you think, Emerald? Easy peasy?
Easy peasy.
All right, guys, we showed you Emerald lowering the baffle to block the airflow from going over the wood, because we've told you in the past, air is lazy. It's gonna take the path of least resistance. So what you wanna do in a kiln, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, is you want to funnel all the air through the lumber, not around it. So you can see they've staggered this all to one side, and that leaves that giant hole over there. So Ian, what are you gonna do about it?
Okay, so we're gonna baffle this right here. They got some canvas kicking around. If you need to baffle off your lumber, and if you have a gap, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Canvas works pretty well, although you have to have a good way to anchor it. They've got some clamps right here and then some big rocks to hold it on the ground. You can do it with plywood if you can have it stable and not go anywhere. One of the things I like to do is that kind of hardboard insulation. You can get that and have it wedged into the gap as well. And there are a bunch of different ways to do it, and it's never going to be perfect. I mean, even our baffle here, you've got a few inches on the side. There's always going to be areas for the air to leak through. It's just trying to stop the bulk of it as much as possible, and the higher majority of the air you can force through the lumber, the better.
All right, so right now you're just gonna clamp that canvas up onto the existing baffle, right?
That's the plan, and I've never done their setup here, so you
So
guys
you
might
just
need to
let
come
them
help.
jump in and do it. That way you can critique and tell them if they're doing it wrong.
Hold these two side by side together.
You got it, Brian.
And we just, yep, on that end, we just need the other cloth.
And so I think they're just
The other-
using like
Oh, that other cloth, yeah.
We had one on either side last time.
Yeah, the gap's a little too big.
Yeah, just stick it over left.
so guys, remember, you can make this as substantial or as little as you want.
And do we need the stones this time around?
I think so, because otherwise it will kind of funnel
Okay.
underneath. We'll want to make sure we get probably 2 of them right on this gap right
Yeah.
here. Put the other one over here. And then once you fire it up, you'll want to make sure you check it after a little bit and make sure that it hasn't kind of blown off, but that'll at least block the worst of it, and that's better than nothing.
All right, so if you had your way, what would you actually use for?
I'm a big fan of, in a perfect world, the kiln is full of lumber, and then you don't really have to stress about it. There are complications with that. For example, if it's all green softwood, you're going to be over capacity for your unit. But there's other things you can do. We're discussing, they're going to have some firewood that they might be stacking in here as well and kind of slow drying it along with their lumber, as long as their moisture contents are good. I like, for baffling, if you're always going to have something like this and you always know it's always going to be the same size, you could build something out of, you know, plywood or whatever that you can grab with a forklift or have two people move and just stick right into the gap. If your lumber is always different sizes, then probably the canvas or something like hardboard insulation will be better. So
Okay.
the big old happy it depends. But,
Gotcha.
I think this will at least get the job done, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. Once your lumber is in and you're ready to go, you're just going to bring these doors in. And these have a really cool locking mechanism on the door.
Oh yeah, you
It's
thought
going
it was
to-
like, no, we're golden.
Slide up.
Just like that.
And there we go, guys. So something very important that I want to show you about this L200. When you get this unit, whether it be a Pro or an L200S or an M, you're going to get a powered exhaust vent and a louvered intake vent. Now, this louvered intake vent isn't connected to any kind of power or anything, but when the exhaust vent comes on and changes the pressure in the kiln, it will cause those louvers to suck open, allowing cool, dry air from outside. Well, Ian just happened to think about something, and there you go. This thing. So there's something very important that we send for that vent. And Ian, what is that?
So this right here is literally just a little tin shield. And all this does is it goes on the inside of the door and protects the louvered vent from the direct airflow of the circulating fans, because if you don't have this, when your powered exhaust vent kicks on, the pressure from the circulation fans will actually keep the louvered vents from opening, and you'll have a really hard time venting out of the kiln.
All right.
So we're gonna put this, well actually we'll show you real quick. I'm gonna hit manual vent. You'll see that the power vent kicks on.
All right, guys. So right now the fans are blowing up against those louvers. Ian is gonna go manually vent.
It's venting. So we can
And-
come around here and we can see the kiln is venting, the powered vent is going.
Powered vent is going.
Those louvers up front aren't opening. So we're going to install this and we'll show you guys the difference.
Perfect. So you've got two ways you could do that thing, and so Ian is giving him the best. So this way is the preferred method. That way you have those folds and bends that are stronger at the top and bottom, because that's where the pressure is going to be the worst, right, Ian?
Yep, that's correct.
And
Need
he's
to help
just
you hold
going
it?
to...
I just wanted to send her.
Perfect.
All right, guys, so now you can see that plate is just going to protect that louver from the air pressure of those fans. So we'll do that same demonstration again, and hopefully you're gonna see a vent open. All right, so you're gonna hear the fans fire on. Ian's gonna fire them up. There they go.
You can hear it sucking in, but it only
Yeah.
opened a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah.
I heard it when it
So,
happened.
It doesn't look like much of a difference, but each louver actually has close to a 1/2-inch gap on the bottom.
Yep.
Which this is a passive vent, so there you go. It's opened a little bit more.
All right.
So it doesn't look like much, but it is.
But it
a
is
little bit
open.
of
You can
difference,
definitely see it and hear it. So yeah, so make sure you put that little shield on there, guys. We didn't just send it to you just because we thought it was cute. So Ian, let's take them over to the control box and show them how to get started. So you saw us close up the kiln. So Ian, that means we're ready. So what do we do to get started? I'll just zoom in on the screen here.
Alrighty, so basically we're gonna do a little bit of a warm up, and tomorrow they're gonna see how high their wet bulb climbs and then probably go to the actual setting for the pine. So we are gonna start off our dry bulb set point right here, it's 100. Our wet bulb set point is 90.
And it's as simple as hit start, confirm, and start kiln. And there she goes.
I feel like that was anticlimactic. That was easy.
Some things are easy, turns out.
All right, so you could hear the fans come on,
Yep.
and you can see.
We've got our
on the
different pieces
control
of
screen.
equipment going. The heat's running, it's in green. Your fans are running, your blower's running. Your compressor's still in yellow, orange-ish.
Yep.
So that's on standby. And we've got the spray turned off, and the vents are also in standby. So as the kiln operates, these will light up different colors based on what piece of equipment is running. And then you'll have your controlling values here lit up in green as well. So once that hits about 100 degrees, the heat will turn off, and it'll be on standby until the heat is needed again.
Gotcha.
Yep. So then tomorrow morning, Brian over there is going to come back and he's going to see how high the wet bulb actually climbs to. That stuff has a little bit of airtime, so there is a decent chance that it won't run the wet bulb high enough to turn on the compressor. If it does, we'll get drying a little bit faster. But most likely tomorrow morning, he'll come and change these to our group 1 settings in our schedule, 120, 75, and just force that compressor to run and dry that pine as quickly as we can.
So, Ian, you mentioned something earlier when we were looking at the controls. You mentioned Group 1. So, can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. So Group 1 is directly referencing the user manual we ship with all of our controllers. And this is a quick little snapshot of the page. You got your different types of wood groups. Group 1, your 4/4 softwoods and soft hardwoods, something like, spruce, fir, pine, poplar. Your Group 2, your 4/4 medium hardwoods, something like, walnut or anything like that. And then your thicker softwoods and soft hardwoods. And then Group 3, you have your 4/4 hardwoods, something like oak. And then you have your 8/4 mediums, and then your 8/4 hardwoods is Group 4. So
Gotcha.
What that means is it's a real broad general way of separating a lot of the kind of rough drying speeds of a lot of kind of common hardwoods and softwoods in the US. So in our book, we've got some basic drying schedules. You can follow these and they will totally get the job done. And it's gonna just be based entirely on whatever group your drying falls into it. This kiln right here, it's loaded up with 4/4 pine. So we're gonna plug that in as a Group 1 schedule. We're just doing like I said earlier, we're doing a warm-up step to let everything get to temperature, and then we're gonna kick over to the Group 1 step. But you can be kind of more or less gentle depending on what's appropriate for your wood. So these are kind of baseline guideline rules that will get you really good results with the L200 or the L53 or any of those kind of small kiln systems. If you want, you can always feel free to kind of reach out to us if you have something specific. I'm more than happy to work with people about designing custom schedules, and we can kind of get into a little bit more fine-tuning stuff, more steps. Really depends on how deep you want to get into it. But
Gotcha.
that's a quick rough overview of wood groups, and hopefully that explained it.
So that's just meant to be a great starting point to keep their wood safe without causing damage, and they can get a little more aggressive as they learn how to operate the kiln or as they work with a drying specialist such as yourself.
That is correct.